Hey guys, welcome to my first YouTube video. This will be the first and hopefully of many. I have tried to do YouTube and then just kind of gone back and forth with it, but this is my first one. I'm going to try and be consistent. And I thought, what a great way to do that by starting to talk about Arsenal, my football team. And yeah, just ignore the background. But yeah, Arsenal won, Fulham nil, or Fulham nil, Arsenal won. It was an okay performance from the team, I guess, an away performance. But I think in general, our performances this season have just left a lot to desire, and it kind of questions whether this year will be the year that he finally gets us over the line. I think for the most part, the defense looked all right. We didn't really have much to do in terms of the shape. We weren't really pulled out of out of the defensive shape. I guess in the first couple minutes, Gabriel looked a bit off, but I think as the game went on, he kind of grew in confidence. Raya didn't really have much to save apart from there was one in the first half. I can't remember who got it. I think it was a cross. I can't remember who the right back was, and the right kind of just tapped it over the bar. But apart from that, he didn't really have much to do. I think the key issue here with Arsenal, especially as you see why we kind of struggle to create, is our overall build up is very slow. And the reason why it's slow is when you look at how we set up, it's not necessarily, put Eze in the 10 and then put Zubamendi in that kind of sixth row and then Rice on the half space or as an 8. It's more or less the mentality of how you set up that three, especially when you have someone like Rice playing in that kind of half space. I just don't think Rice does that really well. And the reason for that is when he gets onto the ball, his first thought is to always move away from where the play is. If you look at Rice very closely when he takes his first touch is always facing his goal. It's never facing forward. And when you're doing that constantly, you're slowing down the space, and also you're slowing down the build up. And by the time you turn around and actually look for the pass may not necessarily be on there. And it's the same when, particularly very evident when you see Marino in that kind of space as well. When Marino gets onto the ball, his first thought is to always retain that position. His first thought isn't to go forward or to try and break the lines. His first thought is, I need to take my first touch and play that out to either Calafiori if I'm on the right side, or Timber if I'm on the other side. And this is ultimately why our build up looks very, very slow, very lethargic, is because our mentality in terms of how we play through our midfield is that we're not trying to play our midfield. We're not trying to move the ball forward every time when we have the ball. It's more or less the ball needs to kind of be retained, moved across the back four, and then eventually find its way onto the fullbacks, and then the fullbacks kind of bring it down the line to Saka or Martinelli, and then that's kind of how we build up. I think for me, when I see us play, I think we kind of bypass the midfield a lot in terms of how we try and get the ball forward. I think there's times when Rice, even today, when Rice is under pressure, he scares me a lot. And not in the sense that, oh, he's scary in terms of his whole play. He's scary in the sense that he kind of loses control when he's under pressure. Like his feet don't move quick enough when there's one or two players pressing him, and that tends to have him losing the ball. That's why I don't particularly like Rice on the half space, but at the same time I don't like him where Zubamendi is either, because I don't think he has the technical nous to kind of play where Zubamendi is. Rice kind of has Rice has a specific role. It's the box to box. I think that's where you see Rice at his best when he's driving the ball from one part of the pitch to the other, and when we are trying to use Rice the same way we used maybe Party, even Party, for example, Party was a six, and it was a very good six. But now we have Zubamendi on. Is it really an upgrade? I'll be honest. When I look at Zubamendi, I don't feel like he fills me with much confidence in terms of what Party had. I think when we looked at Party when he was in this team, he was definitely overlooked on how much of a glue he was to this midfield and how he helped us progress the ball. Because now we have Zubamendi. Zubamendi is a very good player. But I just think in this midfield with Zubamendi and Rice, we just don't move the ball quick enough to get the best out of someone like Eze, because Eze is Eze kind of plays in that final part of the pitch in terms of where he gets the ball. He's not given that kind of free roam or that access to get the ball from deep and just drive, kind of similar to how we have Odegaard. We have Odegaard and Eze, but we use them in tens in a completely different way. Odegaard is used more as that free roam. He's given more license to drop deep and kind of dictate. Eze hasn't really been given that license yet. Eze's kind of been given that role as a final form 10. Like he almost has to just camp and wait for that ball to get to him. But when you have Zubamendi, who takes an absolute lifetime to get the ball forward, and then you have Rice, who on the half space is very questionable, you can't really expect much from Eze in terms of creating, because the two players that he has behind him are not progressing the ball quick enough for him. And this is why the midfield is so important, because it ultimately determines how we're gonna play. And the balance for me is just off. For me, that midfield has got to be either Zubamendi on the six, and then it's Eze and Odegaard when he's back, or it's Eze and Ethan on that left side. Because when you see Ethan on the pitch when he comes on, he's a lot more expansive. And every touch he gets on, every touch he receives on the ball, it's always to get forward. His mindset is, I want to get this ball as forward as possible. It's not to pass it to Saliba, and then Saliba gets it to Gabriel, and then it kind of retains the possession. Every touch he has is always thinking about making it go forward. And I think that for me is how we look positive. I think Arsenal's whole game now is very slow, and I think at some points during the season when we face more technical teams in terms of they might have more explosive midfielders, or there's games where we might even go a goal or two behind. How do we respond to that? Because this whole game, I was struggling to see how we were going to score. Like, Trossard on that left side might as well not exist. I know he got the goal, but apart from that, every time that ball went onto his side, the attack is breaking down. Every single time, without fail. Every time the ball went onto Trossard, either he's making the wrong pass onto the inside, or he's overshot in the cross and it's going out for a goal kick. And similarly to Saka, but I think Saka had a much better game than what I'm seeing people say online. I think Saka played a lot better than what people are saying. I think he was much more of our brighter spark, and he has been, to be honest. But even there's I think when you look at Arsenal's front three, there's a clear struggle in terms of how do we get Gyökeres in the game as much as we can. And I think at some point during this season, it's gonna come to a point where Arteta is gonna make a decision where we're close in terms of the league. It's crunch time. There might be 10 or 12 games left of the season, and Gyökeres is giving you absolutely fuck all in terms of build up, scoring goals, or contributing in any capacity in this team. Because as much as he's struggling to score, we can understand that. But the key issue here with Gyökeres isn't that. It's it's his hold up play is non-existent. Like every time he gets the ball, and we're trying to build up with Gyökeres, that ball is not sticking one bit. Like there was a bit in the first half where the ball came to him, and he ran it out for a throw in, and there was no pressure. There was no pressure on him whatsoever. The ball just ran out for a throw in, and I'm just confused with this, because it's like you're not scoring, but I think the main part of your game is that you just look overweight in terms of every touch you have on the ball. Every touch is just very sluggish. It's not connecting. You're kind of struggling in terms of kind of getting onto the ball. And every time the play kind of comes onto you, you're busy wrestling with defenders. I like to see him peel off the defenders a little bit more. There's times in the games where the he could just come off the centre backs a bit and actually try and get on the ball, and he's really not doing that. He's doing something very similar to when Hoyland was at Man United, where he's just playing wrestling with the defenders, and at some point it's gonna come to a point where fans will get onto him. And yeah, he had a few chances. He had a few chances this game. I think the first one where Saka played him behind, I think that one he should have taken a touch. I don't think the shot was on there as much. I think he panicked a little bit and he took the shot on a bit too early. But it was a good save nonetheless. And then he had another one in the second half where I think this time it was Zubimendi who played him. I can't remember exactly. And he peeled off. And it was and that was decent play. But we don't see that much of him because most of the time he's wrestling with defenders. And I think we just need to kind of accept what he is now. We've seen enough of a sample size to suggest that he's someone that would just get us goals when that finally does happen. But if you're expecting much in terms of his build up, yeah, you're not going to see that. And now when you watch him, you can start to kind of understand a little bit more why Mikel wanted Sesko, and why he's been kind of fighting this battle within himself not to get a striker, because you lose a lot with Gyökeres being on the pitch, because I get it, he's not scoring, but his build up is just not there. Like we're not like every time the ball gets to him, it's just not sticking. Like it's just not sticking at all, and that's the issue. It's not the fact that he's not scoring, because the goals will come if he stops playing wrestling with the defenders. The goals will come. He just needs to. The build up play is the key issue, and I think at some point you'll see Mikel Merino there in the striker position, because there'll be games where we're struggling, or we're down to 10 men, or we're a goal down, and we're looking for someone to kind of create that overload in the midfield, because he's not going to create that overload. He's playing as essentially as the last man, and and it's not doing a great job. Let's be real, guys. But yeah. Anyways, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 win. I think we shouldn't really expect Arsenal to play like scintillating football. I think, like I said earlier, we're past that point where Arsenal breaking through lines or are playing this fast build up football. It's just not going to happen, especially with the way the midfield is set up. That midfield for me is still a big issue in terms of how we're using it. I think Rice and Zubimendi doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. I think they're both too slow on the build up and how we progress the ball. Rice on the half turn is just not it. And I don't know what's happened with Ethan. He can't catch a break. Like honestly, he signed a new contract and he can't even get 2 minutes of game time. Like not even a single minute he's getting. I'm not sure what's gone on there. His his persistence with Marino is gonna cost us because Marino, for me, only works in his team up top. When you take him out and put him into the midfield, that's when you see our deficiencies a lot more. And even when you saw Norgard came on, even I was surprised because I completely forgot we even signed Norgard. But even he came on before Ethan, so I'm not entirely sure where that came on. Special shout out to Calafiori. I thought he had a decent game. As a fullback, I'm okay with him as a fullback. I think when he inverts, he looks a bit scatty sometimes. Sometimes he loses the ball, and then he's caught out of possession and stuff, and we have a turnover there. But I think him as a fullback is works in this Arsenal team. But as an inverted fullback, that's where I'm a bit unsure. I think Timber had an okay game. There was a time when we had a breakaway in the first half. The one bit where Jokeres actually had decent play, and he wasn't actually wrestling defenders. He peeled off. But yeah, Timber, he was on the break and then he stopped and then we won the corner. But yeah, but anyways, 1-0 win. I think at this stage of the season, it's just keeping up with City and Liverpool. I think ultimately it's too early to kind of predict. I think the league is open for either City, Liverpool, or Arsenal. I think ultimately it will come down to who blinks first. And Arsenal, for me, just need to kind of stay there and just keep winning. Liverpool last season pulled away from us because we didn't take enough risks in terms of the games that we had. 14 draws, that speaks for itself. So we just kind of just stay there in the mix of things and ensure that we don't get burnt out. But yeah, on to the next. I'll try and stay as consistent as I can with these match reactions. But yeah, see you guys next time.